If you take great care of your skin, but you're still breaking out, it may be the habits that you're adopting. Now, hear me out. It's important to note that bacteria is the seed that grows acne. So if acne were a flower, it needs to grow and thrive. And bacteria is that seed. But believe it or not, the number one reason why breakouts happen so often is by perpetual habits that are depositing bacteria onto the skin. Hi, I'm Rose Prieto. I'm a beauty business owner with over 30 years experience as a brow and makeup artist and over 15 years experience as an esthetician, electrologist, and cosmetic tattooist. And one of the most popular questions from my clients is how to control their breakouts. Now, I'm not a doctor, so I obviously can't prescribe medication. So the conversations I have with my clients are probing questions about their lifestyle. For example, are you touching your face throughout the day? Do you have an idiosyncrasy that when you're reading or concentrating, you're rubbing your forehead? What about the way you wash your face? The simple act of washing your face can lead to breakouts, not because of the way you're washing your face, but the way you're drying your face. So if you use a towel that you use to take a shower with, or that towel that's next to the sink after you go to the bathroom and you wash your hands, if you're using that towel on your face, that is a bacteria magnet. You're contaminating your skin. The key to clear, healthy skin that is blemish-free is to avoid the amount of bacteria buildup on the skin. Now, we're not going to talk about acne today. We're just talking about the regular, run-of-the-mill, good old-fashioned acne that happens when bacteria contaminates the surface of our skin. And two of the biggest culprits are how we dry our skin after we've cleansed our face and managing the cleanliness of our makeup application brushes. After you cleanse your face morning and night, the simple act of using a tissue to blot your skin dry is a game changer because you're ensuring that something sanitary is touching your face. Even a freshly laundered towel can harbor bacteria. So unless you're using a single-use washcloth that has been washed in bleach, and then you're putting it in the laundry immediately after you use it to dry your face, you're running the risk of contaminating your skin. To make it easy, just use a tissue to blot your skin dry. Number two, and in my opinion, one of the biggest reasons why skin breaks out on a daily basis is the cleanliness of your makeup application brushes. So whether you're using a beauty blender or brushes, you need to maintain the cleanliness of these tools. So these are the brushes that I have just used to apply my makeup look today. And these are broken down into wet brushes and dry brushes, which leads me to the categories of makeup application. After we've cleansed our face and prepped our skin with our skincare, our skin is hydrated and plump, it's ready to receive our makeup. So applying your makeup look starts with wet products. So these are the wet brushes that I just used. I typically start by underpainting my bronzer. My bronzer comes in a stick. Now a powder bronzer would be in the dry category. Then I applied corrector, and I like to use this little pony foot brush to blend that in. Then comes complexion, and I love using a brush to apply foundation. Still a wet product because I use a liquid foundation. Even if you use a cream foundation, it's still a wet product. Then I apply my concealer. Oh, I forgot to mention that when I initially underpaint with my cream bronzer, I like to use a brush like this to sculpt out my nose and define some smaller contours of the face. So that cream bronzer is a wet product, so that goes in the wet category. So after my concealer, I'll use a cream blush. So whether using a gel, a liquid, or a cream product, it's still wet, so that goes in the wet pile. So with that said, let's move over to my dry brushes. After I've applied my wet products, now I'm moving on to my dry. So the first thing you do is to set your under eye concealer. So this brush is the first dry product brush I've used. Then I like to use a powder bronzer. I like to use a large fluffy brush. The first highlighter was with this brush. The second was with this brush. And then of course, a little blush. And of course, my eye makeup was achieved using these brushes. Hence my dry brushes. Getting back to my wet brushes, anything that is wet needs to be washed on a daily basis because these brushes will quickly harbor bacteria. So if I come back to these brushes tomorrow, especially this concealer brush that I really pack with product and push into my skin, as well as this foundation brush, these two in particular, my foundation and concealer, absolutely with 100% certainty I will break out if I don't wash these brushes in hot soapy water. The rest of the brushes I could probably get away using these one more day, but since I'm already washing my foundation and concealer brush, it takes another minute to wash these wet brushes. So I highly encourage you to get into the practice of washing your wet brushes on a daily basis. But what about the dry brushes? So the first brush that I use to set that under eye concealer is touching wet. So if the dry touches the wet, I would recommend washing it. So this is going to be washed tonight because my under eye concealer area was wet. I added a light veil of powder to lock it in. So now this brush has been contaminated with something that's wet, so I'll add it to the wash pile tonight. And the same thing with my bronzer. I apply the powder bronzer to lock in and seal in that underpainting that I did in the beginning, so that's gonna get washed tonight as well. And one brush that I didn't mention is the brush that I bake with every day. Now, I hate the term baking. You have to set your makeup. This is what we do. We set our makeup. So every day I get my powder. So the last step of my makeup application is setting my makeup, particularly on the areas of the face that you want to maintain that highlight. Because I'm pushing that brush into the skin, especially in areas that have not been set with powder yet, it's now been contaminated, so that's gonna get washed. So as for the rest of the dry brushes, once a week is fine, because when you use these brushes on a daily basis like I do, it's really easy for oils to build up. So for the integrity of the brush and for the health of your skin, I highly recommend washing these dry brushes once a week. But again, your wet brushes need to be washed daily. So don't spend a lot of money on fancy brush cleaners. My tried and true that I've been using for over 3 decades to wash my makeup brushes is good old-fashioned soap. I prefer the moisturizing soaps. All you have to do is run your hot water, wet your brush, keeping the brush pointed down. You want to avoid getting water inside the base of those bristles. If I waited a month to wash these brushes, the water would be really dark orange and brown, and it would take me several rinses to get the water running clear. But as you can see, my brushes aren't that dirty because I wash them in between each use. The same theory holds true if you're using a beauty blender or one of these little puffs to set your makeup. You want to make sure they stay clean. So regardless of the tool that you're using to create the makeup look that you love, whether it's a makeup brush, whether it's a sponge or a beauty blender, it doesn't matter. Keep them clean. Don't touch your face throughout the day. And anything that does touch your face, whether it's your phone or even your pillowcase, you want to make sure that it stays clean and sanitary. You'll never get breakouts. By the way, these tips and this video comes to you by Pretty Girl Playbook, the most amazing beauty guide that's packed with nuggets of information to maintain beautiful skin and hair for a lifetime. So thank you, Pretty Girl Playbook. I will follow all of your tips. I hope you learned something from this video. I'd love to know how you take care of your brushes, if you prefer using a beauty sponge, a beauty blender, and if you were ever even aware that bacteria loves to set up camp in your makeup brushes. So cheers to healthy and beautiful skin. Thank you so much for the gift of your time. I'll see you again soon. Mwah! Ciao for now.